time do we go?
All right, it's 7:30. We're going to start the meeting. Welcome to the City of Middleton Common Council. Today is November 7th, and we have quite an audience, so thank you for coming out tonight. We are going to start, thank you so much, with the roll call.
Alder Schaefer.
Here.
Alder Wokus.
Here.
Alder Cole.
Here.
Mayor Kuhn.
Here.
Alder Nelson.
Here.
Alder Jackson.
Here.
Alder Hanairo.
Here.
Alder Lorman.
Here.
Alder Crow.
Here.
Great. Moving on, we are going to take public comments, but we're going to pause for a moment. We're going to move forward to the public hearing. It is 7:30. The public hearing at 7:30 is the recodification of extraterritorial zoning ordinance pertaining to the Middleton Westport Joint Planning Area, Middleton Westport Joint Zoning Committee. Is there anybody here to speak? Hearing none, we will close that public hearing. Moving on to proclamations. The first is in memoriam of former District 1 Alder Gordon Eugene Ellis. Alder Schaefer.
Oh, thank you very much. The family would like to have been here tonight and can't, so they asked me to read a couple little notes from them before I read the proclamation. This is from Jeff, who was instrumental in starting this. He said, "Many thanks of appreciation go to City Clerk Lori Burns, who assisted with this special honor right from the start, as well as current District 1 Alder John Schaefer, who currently holds the seat of Gordon, ably held for 2 terms nearly 50 years ago. Both dealt with many of my emails to make this moment special, and for their help alone, I say much thanks, and thank you also to Mayor Emily Kuhn. I was there with Gordon from the start of his time as a Middleton City Alder, and from all the research that went into his special honor, it's very clear that he was on many boards, commissions, and committees for a person who was only a twice elected city alder for a city that Gordon really dedicated to and appreciated. Again, thank you." And this is from Gordon's wife, Marie Ellis. "To the Honorable Mayor Kuhn and members of the Common Council, on behalf of myself and our family, I would like to express our gratitude for presenting this proclamation in honor of Gordon Ellis. He talked fondly when remembering his time as an alderman for the city of Middleton. I know he felt his service was productive and educational. His positive experience with the city of Middleton led to a long and respectful professional career in city and county management. Thank you to all who participated in creating this honoring proclamation for my husband, Gordon. He would be humbled and appreciative of the recognition and honor from the city of Middleton. Sincerely, Marie Ellis." And now the proclamation. In memoriam of former Alder 1, District 1 Alder Gordon Eugene Ellis. Whereas Gordon Eugene Ellis was a proud resident of Middleton during a portion of his life, and he served the city of Middleton as a twice elected alderman for District 1. And whereas Gordon Ellis was first elected in April of 1975 and won re-election in April of 77. And whereas he ably served his constituents in his aldermanic district and the people of Middleton during his time on the city council. And whereas during his tenure, he served as chair of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee, License and Ordinance Committee, and Finance Committee, as well as served on the Plan Commission, Transportation Committee, Board of Health, Welfare Committee, Personnel Committee, Legislative Committee, Middleton Fire District Board, Madison Area Development Corporation, and as the Middleton Chamber of Commerce liaison. And whereas Gordon Ellis was involved in the Middleton community, he was a member of St. Bernard's Catholic Church and helped with local charity organizations, including the Middleton Optimist Club and the Middleton Booster M Club. He had a strong interest in democracy and history. During his 1975 campaign, Gordon had a campaign advertisement in the Middleton Times Tribune featuring a photograph of him standing next to an extinct mastodon at the UW Geology Museum. The message at the bottom of the ad had said, "Exercise your basic right to vote before it becomes extinct." And whereas he graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in May of 1978 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science and became a father of 2 children, his daughter Michelle and his son Christopher Ellis, while living in Middleton. And whereas after leaving the Middleton City Council in July 1978, Gordon still continued to work municipal government around Wisconsin, including non-elected positions in Wausau, Oshkosh, Lake Geneva, and finally as the administrator of the Village of Denmark.
Now therefore, I, Emily Kuhn, Mayor of the City of Middleton, Wisconsin, along with the Middleton Common Council, do hereby honor the service of Gordon E. Ellis to the City of Middleton and extend to his family our sincere sympathy upon his passing on May 17th, 2023. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
This is Nelson, will second.
Any other comments? The notes from his wife were wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. All those in favor of approving the proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the second proclamation, raising awareness against anti-Semitism. Alder Lorman.
Thanks.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to ask Marnie Ginsburg and representatives from the local Jewish community to step up to the podium. And Marnie, please introduce who's with you.
Where would you like us to stand?
Oh, the podium right there.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to start by saying thank you for having us here tonight and for putting forward this proclamation during these difficult times. So I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Jewish community as well. So as David said, my name is Marnie Ginsburg, and I'd also like to introduce the other representatives from our local Jewish community that are representing our service organizations. This is Alan Klugman, who's the executive director of the Jewish Federation of Madison, and Orly Klugman. And then we have Kai Mishlov Gardner, who's the executive director of Jewish Social Services of Madison, and Jim Mackman, also of Jewish Social Services.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, and welcome.
Marnie reached out to myself and Alder Nelson by email, and this was a wonderful opportunity to draft this proclamation and bring this to the forefront. I'll read the proclamation. Raising awareness against anti-Semitism. Whereas we as a diverse and inclusive society must uphold the values of tolerance, respect, and unity, and acknowledge the essential role of these principles in fostering a harmonious community. And whereas anti-Semitism is a form of discrimination, an age-old malevolent behavior that mutates generationally and is directed towards individual Jews, Jewish institutions, collective Jewish people. And whereas the history of anti-Semitism is marked by persecution, exclusion, violence, unjustified blame, and even genocide. And whereas we believe in the fundamental principles that all individuals, regardless of their religious beliefs or backgrounds, should be treated with dignity, respect, and without fear of discrimination, harassment, or violence. And whereas it is imperative to raise awareness about the persistence of anti-Semitism and its destructive impact on individuals and communities. In order to combat this, we must work towards a more inclusive and harmonious society. And whereas we stand united with our Jewish friends, neighbors, and colleagues, recognizing that combating anti-Semitism is a shared responsibility that transcends religious and cultural boundaries. And Mayor.
And now therefore, I, Emily Kuhn, Mayor of the City of Middleton, Wisconsin, along with the Middleton Common Council and the citizens of the city, do hereby proclaim our commitment to raising awareness against anti-Semitism, and I call upon our residents, organizations, and community members to join in this effort to eliminate persecution, discrimination, and intolerance. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council. Do I have a motion?
This is Jackson. I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Do I have a second?
Lorman will second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Marnie. Oh, yeah. I have to go in the
Yeah, it's always the first part. I know, yeah. And with a ring light.
Okay, and the proclamation recognizing November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day. Alder Crowe.
I'm proud to read this proclamation. A little bit of a personal history. I've never been in the military. I'm not a veteran, but I've had numerous family members going back to Civil War who have been veterans, including my grandfather, who was in France on November 11th, 1918, when armistice was signed, ending the hostilities of World War I. I never knew him. He died in 1939 when my mom was a little girl, so I never got to know him, but I've heard tons of stories, and he left a journal of his experiences and I've also read copies of letters that he would write home to his mother and to his family about his experiences in France during World War I. So this is very personal for me. So a proclamation recognizing November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day. Whereas we honor and express our profound gratitude for the courageous individuals who have served in the armed forces of the United States, and whereas these veterans have selflessly defended our nation's freedom, safeguarded our way of life, and demonstrated unwavering commitment to the principles upon which our country was founded, and whereas President Woodrow Wilson first proclaimed Armistice Day, now commonly recognized as Veterans Day, on November 11th, 1919, and whereas on this day, we honor the brave military service members and their families and commemorate the signing of the Armistice Agreement between the Allies and Germany, which formally ended the major hostilities of World War I on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And whereas in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a law designating the 11th of each November as Veterans Day. And whereas Veterans Day serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made by our veterans and their families and provides an opportunity to pay tribute to their valor, dedication, and patriotism. And whereas we also join the efforts of the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs in establishing outreach efforts to newly returning veterans, individuals with mental health needs, and those experiencing homelessness. And whereas the city of Middleton is privileged to be home to a community of veterans who have provided service in times of conflict and during peacetime.
Now therefore, I, Emily Kuhn, Mayor of the City of Middleton, Wisconsin, along with the Middleton Common Council and the citizens of the city, do hereby proclaim and call upon all citizens to join in heartfelt appreciation of our veterans, to honor their contributions to our nation, and to rededicate ourselves to the principles of peace and freedom for which they have so valiantly fought. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the proclamation for Veterans Day, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you for reading that. Let's take a quick picture, Alder Crow. You can share it with the DFW. Okay, moving on to public comments. Let me get my readers on. Please remember that they're limited to 3 minutes. I realize this is a large crowd. We do have someone who wishes to not speak, but I have noted Jamie Flanagan is opposed to the rezoning of Amendment 2. Let's see here. And up first is Matt Flanagan. Please come to the front. You want to say your name, your address? And speak into the microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Matt Flanagan. I live at 2157 Middleton Beach Road. I have been a resident of Middleton for nearly 20 years, with my wife growing up here. My family was drawn to Middleton as a place to raise our children that valued community, the environment, and a strong educational system. The actions we've witnessed thus far on the FLU map designation for 2159 Allen Boulevard from our community's leaders have demonstrated a complete disregard for the community and the environment. We have asked repeatedly to take the appropriate time to investigate the impact of the proposed structures on the area. Currently, the soccer fields provide a natural buffer and sponge to the multitude of rain events that impact our area. Take the time to walk across these fields in the days after a major storm to see how much water is retained and filtered before it impacts Lake Mendota. We've asked that the Water Resources Management Committee have the opportunity and resources to investigate the long-term impacts that increased impervious surface coverage will have on the lake. We've asked that any number of environmental stewardship organizations be consulted: Dane County Land and Water Resources Department, the DNR, a professional hydrologist. In response, we've heard that housing strategists and developers have the loudest voices. You offer to request these studies, but after plan approvals and subsequently after the floodgates will already be open. We recognize the need for housing, affordable housing in Dane County, but this area is not infill as it displaces the natural buffers preventing runoff into the lake. This zoning change eliminates an active recreation area used by soccer clubs and camps in the area. We've come here once again to ask that you finally hear our voices. Listen to the concerns that your voting constituents present to you. Vote no to Amendment 2. Take the appropriate time and diligence to understand the issues at stake. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I'm going to ask Alder Hanairo to speak.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Lisa Hanairo, 6701 Whittlesey Road, and I'm here because I want to acknowledge a transition involving a member of our community who has spent the past 5.5 years serving as editor of the Middleton Cross Plains Times Tribune, which is our official paper of record. Michelle Phillips has been the editor. Her last day at the Times Tribune was October 31st. In addition to publishing many articles about the actions of this council and our many committees, commissions, and boards, as well as letters to the editor, the paper has invited the mayor, under Michelle's leadership, they've invited the mayor to publish a regular column to help keep residents informed. And I know Mayor Kuhn and before her, former Mayor Brar have availed themselves of this opportunity. And I know we all appreciate Michelle for making this column from the mayor's desk possible. On this election day in many parts of the country, I'm especially pleased to note that Michelle has taken a new position as Communications Manager for the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I am a member of the League, and I look forward to Michelle launching this new position to help the League in its mission to encourage informed and active participation in government. So I hope everyone will join me in thanking Michelle for all she did for the Times Tribune and our community, and also in wishing her the very best in her new role. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you to Michelle for her service. Up next is Vinnie Corwin.
I'm Ginny Corwin, president of the Middleton Beach Road Neighborhood Association, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the majority of our neighbors. We're asking you to remove the site of 2159 Allen Boulevard from the future land use map changes in Amendment 2 of the Comprehensive Plan. Many constituents have expressed their concern that more studies and evaluations need to be done before these zoning category designations are changed. We've heard the city's planner arguments that they will be done after plans are submitted in their approval process. But why should constituents trust that the planners and council could change zoning categories after studies are done? If the studies conclude that avenue mixed use and established neighborhood can't be supported on the site, is downzoning then really an option? Recently, the Plan Commission voted to ignore the city's Water Resource Management Committee's recommendation to limit impervious surface on the site to no more than what is currently allowed, which is 35%. The planners have already demonstrated their lack of acceptance of detailed, thorough analysis by experts in their field when they voted to accept these proposed zoning categories. On October 6th, the city of Middleton received LEED Gold certification for leadership in energy and environmental design. The mayor said Middleton was recognized for its work with builders to promote stormwater management and keeping parks and green space in mind. What a contradiction that is, when this site is less than 1,000 feet from Lake Mendota, and increasing impervious surface on the site will greatly increase runoff into the lake in high rain events. Do what is right and support Dane County and Clean Lakes Alliance's efforts to reduce runoff to the lake and all of Dane County's lakes. Is it any wonder that constituents feel the city planners work for developers and not them? You have the power tonight to delay designating these zoning categories so that thorough, thoughtful studies and evaluations can be made to determine the most appropriate zoning categories for the environmentally sensitive site. Such a decision will go a long way in ensuring the lakes are protected for future generations and constituents feel they are being heard. To be clear, we are fighting for the lake, which doesn't have a voice in this discussion. We urge you, the council, to remove the Allen site from the future land use map changes in Amendment 2. Thank you.
Up next is Jane Wagenke. Kathy Ostrom will speak after.
Good evening, and sorry for my long about trip to the podium.
Good evening.
I'm
You're
Jane
fine.
Wagenke. I live at 2161 Middleton Beach Road with my husband, John, and we've been there for 40 years. I oppose the future land use designation for 2159 Allen Boulevard in Amendment 2. I urge the Common Council to remove this site from the future land use map before approving Amendment 2. We live directly across Middleton Beach Road from 2159 Allen. We have had a ringside seat for all these years for many serious water-related issues that had disastrous economic and environmental effects citywide and countywide. This is a very unique and strategic place for water resource management. The Planning Commission referred the site to the Water Resources Management Commission for review. The commission has several citizen members well known for their expertise in this area. Commission discussions indicated that this was a very fragile site with critical benefits to the environmental health of the immediately surrounding area and beyond. And there should be no impervious elements on this site. Listening to or viewing the recorded meeting truly is the only way to reflect the committee's position on this issue. I urge you to recognize the significance and importance of this site. You can prevent disastrous and costly mistakes in land development by removing this site from the future land use map before voting on Amendment 2. This will provide opportunity for a full evaluation of its importance. The Planning Commission has called this 7 acres an opportunity not to be missed with respect to infill for high-density development. I maintain this is an opportunity not to be missed to preserve this site free of impervious structures for the environmental integrity of our neighborhoods and the whole Dane County lake system for all the years to come.
Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Thank you. Up next is Kathy Ostrom.
Hi, my name is Kathy Ostrom. My husband Craig and I live at 2157 Middleton. No, we don't. Where do we live? 2517 Middleton Beach Road. Anyway, for all of you that know me, I'm quite a talker, but I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I'm a little nervous. So for the record, I'd like to say that Craig and I are opposed to the proposed development at 2159 Allen Boulevard until further studies are done. It's hard to believe that we have to stand here tonight and fight for something that is clearly wrong. Our environment, our lake, and the impact that this city will have with our neighboring communities, with the Allen Boulevard corridor, will be terribly altered because of this proposed development. I grew up in Middleton. My father owned the Middleton Times-Tribune for 25 years. We are the good neighbor city. It's no longer recognizable. With the growth, I believe is important, but responsible growth is more important than the dollar. And that is what I think is happening here. I understand you need the tax revenue, but let's get creative about other ways to bring the revenue here without ruining our environment. As you can see, I'm very passionate about this. my sister-in-law lived on Terrace Avenue in Parmenter. And when they built the downtown city apartments, with the driving of the pylons, her family home was ruined. The foundations were ruined because of the constant hammering. The new homes and the old homes in that section of Middleton Beach Road will be compromised. I want to know if the city is going to be responsible for the damage that will occur to these homes and the flooding that will occur. My brother, Mike Duran, who is a passionate environmentalist and a teacher at Middleton High School, worked effortlessly to protect the watershed west of Middleton, but unfortunately to no avail. The developers won over. And in the 2018 flood,
Your time is up. Thank you for
that
sharing.
corridor was flooded. I'm asking the council to please delay the vote for further review. Thank you.
Up next is Dan Gibson.
Good evening. I'm Dan Gibson. I live at 2151 Middleton Beach Road. I'm very proud of our neighbors who are here tonight. I don't think I could say it better than they have. The overwhelming majority of our neighbors are extremely disappointed to see our city representatives rushing the process and proposing a multifamily rezoning of the Allen Boulevard site, which is contrary to the recently crafted 2021 Middleton Comprehensive Plan. I firmly believe that the city leaders who spent long hours crafting the 20-year plan had it right when they deemed this land to be appropriately zoned for single-family housing. Other than outright greed, why is the City of Middleton Plan Commission pushing you, the city council, to vote in favor of a rezoning that would allow for a massive high-density apartment development on a beautiful recreational green space that's surrounded by parks, conservancy, and Lake Mendota? It makes no sense and is very profit motivated at the expense of our community and its natural resources. What is even more confounding has been the favoritism shown by the Plan Commission and our mayor towards the developer. Many of us were very disappointed by Mayor Kuhn's comments to the developers one evening when she said, "When you build this complex," it was a head scratcher. And there were other off-base comments in the city meeting minutes that we're all used to high buildings in our neighborhood. I don't agree with those comments. Also troublesome is that after decades of waiting, in 2022, a new road was installed on Middleton Beach Road that was built specifically to accommodate the soccer field property parking and the single-family homes surrounding it. Our Middleton Beach Road neighbors were assessed thousands of dollars for some of this work and the reconfiguration of the road to accommodate the single-family zoning and the soccer fields. The process was positive, and it was a thoughtful partnership between the city and our neighborhood, which is in stark contrast to what we've been experiencing with this rushed rezoning proposal over the last several months. A vote tonight in favor of rezoning would absolutely contradict Middleton's green city goals as outlined in the 2021 comprehensive plan, and it would also ignore our city's own independent water resources management committee's 6-0 vote. 6-0. Recommending a proper evaluation of the environmental impact on our area lakes and the watershed to take place before rezoning. If you're not going to listen to your constituents here this evening, at least listen to the experts and conduct a proper analysis before rezoning is even considered. Thank you for your attention.
Rick Lemon.
Good evening, Common Council members. My name is Rick Lemon and my wife Tina and I live at 2519 Middleton Beach Road. We've raised our family on the street and have lived on the street for over 43 years. We're asking you, council members, to remove the site 2159 Allen Boulevard from the FLU map changes in Amendment 2 of the Comprehensive Plan. By now, you all have been inundated with letters from your constituents expressing their concerns about development of the soccer fields. We heard the Plan Commission's arguments that the Allen Boulevard site should be rezoned now, and they'll look at the issues after the plans are submitted by the developers. This doesn't make any sense. We need to plan wisely now. Recently, the Plan Commission voted to ignore the city's own Water Resource Management Committee's recommendation that limits impervious surface to less than 35%. The Plan Commission has already demonstrated their lack of respect for a detailed, thorough analysis by water management experts when they voted to accept these proposed zoning changes. Mind you, the vote was stated as 4-2, but that occurred only after browbeating one of the members to change their mind from a 3-3 split. The soccer fields are only a few hundred feet from Lake Mendota, and increasing the impervious surface on the site to 80% or more will greatly increase runoff to the lake in high rain events. Remember, we already have had a 100-year flood in 1993, 2000, 2008, and 2018. I had to sandbag my shoreline every one of those years. Do what is right and support Dane County and Clean Lakes Alliance efforts to reduce runoff into the lake. In our 43 years on the street, we have seen many changes, mostly for the better. Establishing the Jacobson Conservancy to maintain green space, remodeling Lakeview Park, and finally, after 75 or more years, redoing the street itself. These were welcome improvements. To build a 550-unit apartment building, as was originally proposed, would be a disaster. Even downsizing to a 5-story apartment as supported by the Plan Commission would not fit into the existing neighborhood. The negative effects on traffic, water runoff, and green space would last for generations. We're asking that all of you listen to your constituents, do the right thing for future generations, and delay these zoning changes so that a more thorough study can be made to determine the most appropriate use of this environmentally sensitive site. In closing, we urge the council to remove the Allen site from the FLU map changes in Amendment 2. Remember, council members, you represent the people, not the developers. Thank you.
Woody Haig.
Good evening. My name is Woody Hagee. I live at 2607 Middleton Beach Road with my wife Inga. I served on the town board of my northern Wisconsin community for 16 years before our family moved to Middleton 12 years ago. In the late 1990s, I wrote our town's land use plan with a great deal of help from residents. I believe in managed development, because that is how communities grow and maintain their unique character. We are not here tonight to deny a landowner legal development under existing zoning. We are here tonight because Middleton is considering rezoning property specifically to accommodate a high-density development that is not allowed under existing zoning. Typically, zoning is a tool used to manage development, not the other way around. Allowing developers to dictate changes in zoning should be a red flag to everyone involved. If you change existing zoning at 2159 Allen Boulevard to a less restricted zoning to accommodate this proposed development, you need to get it right. You need all the studies and facts prior to making your decision. There is no second chance once this land is converted to high-rise apartments. This land is barely 250 feet from the shore of Lake Mendota. If you get this development wrong, there is a good chance you will create future environmental problems that will negatively impact Lake Mendota and the Middleton Beach neighborhood. What is the rush? Why are you considering changing the zoning before the full impact of this large development is known? I ask you to remove 2159 Allen Boulevard from the FLU map changes in Amendment 2 of the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Inga Hagee.
Good evening. My name is Inga Hagee. I live at 2607 Middleton Beach Road. I'm here to oppose a zoning change that would allow high-rise apartments to be built on the soccer field on Allen Boulevard. In 2021, my husband Woody and I bought our home at the north end of Middleton Beach Road, a couple doors down from the historic boathouses, and now in the shadow of the new high-rise apartments on the north end of MBR. We moved to Middleton so our children could attend the best high school in Wisconsin, Middleton High School. That paid off. Our daughter went to Northwestern and our son to Princeton. Now that we're done paying for college, we have plans to renovate our 32-year-old home. But we're dragging our feet, waiting to see which way you will vote on the high-rise apartments at the south end of MBR, which, if approved, would bookend our neighborhood and surely lower our property values. Is it too much for us to expect our mayor and city council to work to protect our property values and our neighborhood? When you vote on zoning changes in a development that would add 1,000 people and hundreds of cars to our streets and increase noise and light pollution, please remember, this is our home. Cast your votes mindful that we live here, in that we have invested significantly in our homes and in the city of Middleton through our taxes and citizenship. We have a stake in this community. As you may know, Middleton Beach Road is a great walking neighborhood, especially so now that we have a smooth new road. Woody and I went for a walk yesterday and stopped and talked with our neighbors out enjoying the beautiful day. Word on the street is that you've already made up your minds to approve the zoning change in some scale of the proposed high-rise apartments. Are we here tonight as a necessary but inconsequential formality in your approval process? You need to be honest with us. Each year, Middleton hosts the Good Neighbor Festival. In fact, Middleton calls itself the Good Neighbor City. It's time to ask ourselves, is this a community value or just a slogan? Because good neighbors need good neighborhoods. Middleton Beach Road is one of the oldest and most desirable neighborhoods in Middleton. Isn't this something city planners should value and nurture? Why do you think people want to live in Middleton? I assure you, it's not for the high-rise lifestyle. I wager it is because of the city's beauty along the lake, its green belts like Pheasant Branch Conservancy, and its tree-lined residential neighborhoods, all of which, by the way, are thanks to the foresight of previous generations. Our current mayor and city planners need a vision to go forward and grow our community without destroying what makes Middleton the place we and others want to call home. The upshot is this: you can build high-rise apartments many places. You can't
Your time
build
is up.
another Middleton Beach Road neighborhood, but you can destroy it.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Haviland.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Haviland. I live at 2413 with my wife, Crystal, and my 3 young daughters who will soon attend those great schools that we still are so proud of. I'm here tonight to speak in opposition of the proposed changes to the FLU map and for the specific inclusion of 2159 Allen Boulevard. I think the inclusion of that site and the change in the zoning is going to streamline the process to the high rise that everyone's so concerned about, whether environmentally, community aspect, or the changes in the traffic flow. The concerns are many. My question is why the rush? I think the key to this is that the lifespan of a current apartment building is going to be more than 100 years. It's going to outlast us all. So we need to make sure that we get the zoning appropriate for the site and for the community, and be very thoughtful in the process. If we streamline the zoning, it's a streamline to the building process. And I think there's no reason to expedite this on what is the most environmentally sensitive site in the city. Someone mentioned previously the site to the north side of MBR, Middleton Beach Road, that was just developed. The mean elevation of that site was about 20 feet above Lake Mendota. The mean elevation of 2159 is about 4.5 feet. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's almost 400% more above the elevation and the decrease. And that's the same for the site of Middleton Shores, which is across County Road M. It's about another 10 feet higher mean elevation. And so the changes that to this site that could impact both the houses that are across the street from the water flow and for our community, and ultimately the lakes that are a cherish and a key part of Dane County, I think is remarkably short-sighted if we don't get this right on the front end. So my request is that we remove 2159 from the current and the change for 2159 zoning under the current proposed FLU map as stated in Amendment 2 to the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Next is Angela Gibson.
Hi, Angela Gibson, 2151 Middleton Beach Road, and I'm here to speak in opposition. We have elected you, our city officials, on the premise that you would be the voice of your constituents. Unfortunately, it seems this premise is false, illustrating a complete lack of transparency in the process. Let me explain how it appears to your constituents. The City of Middleton Plan Commission and a behind-the-scenes owner-developer who has never once showed up at these meetings has been aggressively pushing for the rezoning of 2159 Allen Boulevard to allow a 5-story high-density apartment complex to be built on land that has proven in prior flood events to be vital to protect our lakes, parks, and local wetlands. There has been significant opposition, as you've heard, to this proposed amendment, given the concern for the impact that a high-density development would have on our environment. This non-transparent process has continued to forge forward, ignoring a multitude of in-person and written opposition from us, your constituents. The Plan Commission has completely disregarded the recommendations of the recent WRMC meeting where they noted that the site is extremely sensitive from a water resources perspective due to the proximity to the lake, lack of pollutant buffering, poor soil, and high groundwater conditions, as you've heard over and over again. As you've also heard, the WRMC unanimously 6-0 moved that, quote, future land use and potential development of the site should limit imperviousness to as little as possible and to no more than what would be allowed under the current zoning classification, which is 35% impervious, whereas the new proposed zoning allows 80%. So here are our concerns that you must consider when presented with the vote tonight. What is the rush? Why do we need to push this rezoning? Why not take the extra time to fully evaluate the environmental effects of the proposed decision? Please defer the rezoning and Amendment 2 for the parcel on 2159 Allen Boulevard. Who is representing the environment and lake quality? The intelligent, unbiased experts in the Water Resources Management Committee voiced unanimous concerns about this rezoning. The Plan Commission totally ignored these experts and steamrolled the vote. Who is representing the people most affected by the 2159 Allen Boulevard rezoning and development? It's clear when you read the minutes of the city meetings that it's not the mayor and it's not the district alderperson. Only yesterday have we heard back from Alder Cole stating that she had reached out to the housing experts, but she failed to consider the recommendations of WRMC and other environmental experts. If she would have, she would not be voting in favor of the amendment as she wrote in her email. The citizens have opposed this rezoning and development as initially presented, requesting more research to avoid environmental disaster. Unfortunately, it appears the city planning staff and the developer have been working behind the scenes. Otherwise, the delay to further evaluate this effort would not be refused. Why become a public servant if you do not uphold your constituents' voice? Tonight, we ask you, our elected officials, please vote no to rezoning and Amendment 2 for the parcel in 2159 Allen Boulevard. It's your
Time is up.
ethical responsibility.
Time is up. John Wiganke.
I'm leaving, I'm just taking these back. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is John Wiganke. I live at 2161 Middleton Beach Road. This is to address the future land use map for 2159 Allen Boulevard as presented in Amendment 2 of the Comprehensive Plan. I request that the council remove 2159 Allen Boulevard from Amendment 2 for the following reasons: congestion, traffic, stormwater runoff, and location. My wife and I have been residents of Middleton since 1969, the Middleton Beach Road since 1982. We have seen many changes. Serving on the Board of Appeals for more than 30 years, I have supported many of these. The main consideration in granting approval was the consideration of neighbor input and the resulting effect on the neighborhood. The zoning of 2159 Allen Boulevard is R1. City staff claims that the zoning was a mistake. I agree. It should have been zoned green space. Please help to avoid another mistake of zoning this as mixed use. Several months ago, the owner of 2159 Allen Boulevard applied for a PDD to construct a mixed-use development. They withdrew the application. However, the city has continued to advocate for mixed use. Why? Removing 2159 Allen Boulevard from Amendment 2 would require a PDD application with continued control by the city. Mixed use would not be compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Mixed use would increase congestion, traffic, stormwater runoff with an adverse environmental impact. On 10/18/23, the Water Resource Committee identified the property as extremely environmentally sensitive, and although they preferred to see this site as green space, they were influenced by staff to recommend any future land use or development limit impervious areas to as little as possible and no more than that under current zoning, which is R1. The motion passed 6-0. Several members of the Plan Commission ignored the recommendation and voted to approve mixed use. 2159 Allen Boulevard differs from many of the areas on the FLU map because of its proximity to Lake Mendota. 2159 Boulevard serves as a collection basin for approximately 146 acres of land. Covering this basin would increase runoff of contaminants, especially salt and water volume, to the entire watershed. The community may best be served by removing 2159 from Amendment 2 and postponing any zoning decision until an application is pending and all appropriate studies can be carried out and thus assure public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tom Keepers.
Good evening. My name is Tom Keepers. My wife and I reside at, surprise, Middleton Beach Road, 2165. We happen to be right across the street from this site. Thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight. We appreciate the role you play as public servants on the council and city staff positions. We know you spend many hours of volunteer time and careful deliberation on issues. You have the unenviable position of balancing the healthy tension between the city's fiscal needs and the quality of life for your constituents, many of which are sitting in this room tonight. Here, given the significance of this change and with so many unanswered questions and concerns, we're asking you to place your voters' perspectives, residents who live and work near this site, as a top priority. We continue to voice our opposition, that is our household, to the proposed zoning change for 2159 Allen Boulevard should be removed from the comprehensive plan amendment number 2 and pause for further study. You got some process issues. One, inexplicable expediency. From your voting constituents' perspective, that's us. Staff may have been looking at this for a while. This proposal has gone from 0 to a zoning change in about 6 months. for a property that's been like that for over 40 years. What's the hurry? What is the hurry? That theme is again happening tonight. Number two, staff bias. Our earlier comment letter cites numerous instances of a predisposed position on the matter from the city officials seemingly hell-bent on high-density development, no matter the adverse implications. Number three, asymmetrical reporting. You've got minutes that are being watered down. 25 constituents in opposition weren't included in the minutes until someone had to speak up and say, hey, you need to correct those minutes. We believe that the views of the Water Resources Management Commission have been watered down in some way as well. Number four, underrepresented and unheard. I think most importantly, the mayor and our alder are not advocating the views of the vast majority of constituents. We are not represented in this process, and our views are not incorporated in any deliberations. I know you've done the minimum. The Plan Commission has adhered to Wisconsin statutes, but that's just the minimum, right? Holding a public hearing. This is a monumental decision on a 40-plus-year-old green space where low-density, two-story neighborhoods have grown up around it. Your decision will affect generations to come. We're asking you to put green ahead of greed, to put your voting individuals seeking quality of life ahead of the city's fiscal needs and those of a single property owner. Let me be clear, we are not opposed to free enterprise and development generally, as long as it's smart development. And that's development that properly incorporates input from stakeholders. That simply has not happened here. Please make the right call. Put this thing on hold for further analysis. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Yvonne Jern.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Gurn. I live at 2213 with Middleton Beach Road with my husband Jim, and we oppose the FLU zoning change. The comprehensive plan carefully crafted in 2021 expressed several fundamental values for Middleton. These include increasing the density of housing to make efficient use of land, support infill development where appropriate, especially in downtown Middleton and in other areas well served by transit and in proximity to employment and commercial areas. 3, protect property throughout Middleton with upstream flood control and nutrient reduction strategies to preserve restoration and redevelopment investments and to reduce detrimental downstream effects from runoff. 4, preserve the role of wetlands, prairies, savannas, woodlands as essential components of hydrologic system and valuable wildlife habitat. Protect shoreline and floodplain areas accordingly. Increase connectivity between Middleton's public lands, adjacent communities, and other regional open spaces through land acquisition and/or trail easements that create green corridors. The space at 2159 is situated at the bottom of 2 large hills, is next to the lake, and has soil characteristics that make it an excellent sponge for runoff. It is also located between Lakeview Park, the Jacobson Conservancy, and Marshall Park. 2159 is part of an irreplaceable green corridor. This space already serves several essential purposes as described in the comprehensive plan. The same soil conditions, runoff patterns, and location make it a poor choice for development. Please consider that there are many other sites in Middleton that are already paved with expansive parking lot and existing impervious surfaces. These sites are located right next to major high roadways. These alternative sites are excellent candidates for high-density housing and could be redeveloped without compromising stormwater management and natural resources. We strongly urge you to consider selective redeveloping in Middleton to preserve existing green spaces and to oppose rezoning the current soccer field for high-density development.
Next is Anthony Brous.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Brous. I live at 2307 Middleton Beach Road. I wanted to first say a word of appreciation to Alder Crow. I was moved by his presentation as a 25-year doctor at the VA. But I also feel passionately about my opposition to the comprehensive plan change that would allow the future land use map to reflect zoning on Allen Boulevard for high-intensity apartments and for retail. I alerted the Sustainability Committee to this proposal that was there, and they expressed serious concern and referred the matter to the Water Resource Management Commission. I participated in their meeting. In fact, I was able to supply them with information from a 1994 soil study to give them some data, although Chair Gabriel had already done an excellent analysis of the stormwater issues. But that was bolstered by the fact that he didn't know that the water table was only 3.5 to 4 feet below the surface, which means water will not infiltrate well there. It will just run off. And you've heard their recommendation. Besides the damage that will be done from surface water runoff, mainly from salt and other pollutants into the lake, as well as potential damage to homes that you've already heard about, I've talked to hydrologists from the Clean Lakes Alliance, from the DNR, and from the Wisconsin Wetlands Association. What they say is that large multi-story buildings on that site not only will affect surface water, but will affect subsurface water. That it will be like sinking a 12-foot bathtub into that site, which will divert water, mainly the water flows mainly north from that site. Properties, including the Conservancy, are going to be affected. I don't want to just sit and wonder whether my sump pumps are going to be able to handle it. We ought to know this. We ought to know the volumes we're talking about. So I find it troubling and unusual that this analysis by the Water Resource Management Commission would have been ignored and minimized the way I saw it, because I was there at the Plan Commission meeting. I find it troubling that also that the city is going forward with major development plans on Allen Boulevard while not acting on another part of the Amendment 2, which is to update the build plan for Allen Boulevard. So how are we going to provide guidance to developers when we don't have a plan and we don't know the effects of a major building? So to quote the Water Resource Management site, to quote the Water Resource Management Commission, the site is extremely
Your time is up.
sensitive. I just want to say any damage done there will go on forever.
Your time is up.
So I hope you make the right choice tonight. Thank you very much.
Terry Foss.
Hello, my name is Terry Foss and I live at 2427 Middleton Beach Road, and I'm representing my husband, Dan, who isn't able to be here, and myself. Dan and I have been residents for the city of Middleton for 33 years, and we've been involved owning and running a family business for over 40. I can't tell you the quality of life we've had here. It's been great. And part of the reason is you guys. The representatives that we've elected over the years have listened to their constituents. We provided feedback, you've listened. I feel like it's affected our life for the last 33 years and longer. So we're requesting you to remove the item in Amendment 2 labeled Future Land Use Map Change for the site at 2159 Allen Boulevard until further study can be completed about the effects this development could have on our community, the lake, and the surrounding areas. All of the messages you've heard tonight from my neighbors, I agree with. The concerns, are very significant, and the effect the water runoff on the lake, surrounding areas, as well as traffic in the area, it's going to change the quality of life, not only for our street, but for a lot of constituents in Middleton. Before any rezoning of this property, more study must be completed as to the effects this will have on the lake, the community, and the surrounding area. Our community has excellent resources as reflected by the water resource management team that you hired to give some information and people have referenced. We need to develop this area in a smart and neighbor-friendly way. So let's continue with this tradition in order to maintain and grow our city with the goals we all value, which are outlined in the 2021 comprehensive plan. And I'm going to quote that, is to preserve and enhance our unparalleled connections to nature, agriculture, and water resources. Again, Dan and I request you to remove the Allen site clue map changes from Amendment 2 until you can do more study and evaluations are conducted. We're not against development of property for homes in this area, but we prefer it be completed in a thorough and respectful way to our community and the environment we all value in order to maintain the quality of life we all have grown to love about the city of Middleton. Thank you for this opportunity.
Nancy Gannon.
Good evening, Nancy Gagno, 3339 Conservancy Lane, Middleton. I do not live on Middleton Beach Road, but I do drive on Allen Boulevard just about every day. I'm opposed to the proposed zoning categories in the future FLU Amendment 2 as they pertain to the soccer fields. Others have expressed concerns about runoff and lake health if the parcel is developed with inappropriately sized structures. I share those concerns. You do not have to live on MBR to care about this. I remain concerned, along with others who don't live on MBR, about the traffic impact of the development density that would be allowed under the Plan Commission's recommendation. I do wonder why a less dense development limit isn't being placed on the parcel. So I'm asking that you give this matter the deliberate, full, and fair consideration that it warrants. I've been told, admittedly secondhand, that the mayor has already pronounced that the 525 unit apartment proposal sought by the developer for this parcel will go through. What's up with that? So I'm going to conclude by saying, where's the fire here? For all of you who've been saying, what's the rush? Exactly the same sentiment. I think actually staff has done pretty well to have no resistance to the vast majority of the FLU map changes. We're just talking about some small pieces here. In my past experience in government service elsewhere, you're doing pretty well. So I come back to, finally, why is there this intransigence about pushing this one parcel proposal through in the face of unusually high community opposition? The community you serve. Thank you for your time.
That is the end of the public comments. Is there anyone in addition that would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the approval.
What about Zoom?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody?
May
If anybody is online, would like
May
to
come up.
speak in the public hearing, just either turn your camera on or put up the hand up symbol.
Please state your name and your address as he is checking the online people.
My name is Jen Soderholm and I live at 6210 Lakeview Boulevard. Not Middleton Beach Road, but directly across from the parcel in question. And I echo all of their sentiments. The traffic, the light, the sound pollution, and the runoff to the lake are the biggest concerns. So I just wanted to say from the other side of the Allen Boulevard, we also oppose this. Thank you.
Brian, did you catch your name? Okay, we'll just need someone to follow up to get that. Can you state your name again, ma'am? Can you maybe help him? Yeah, it's. I think so. Can you just tell Brian how to spell your name? The rest we have on record. Did we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, sir.
I don't see anybody on camera.
No one online has asked to speak.
Okay, great. And I do appreciate everyone being patient tonight and sharing your names and addresses and for our last guest to step up. So thank you to make sure our notes are robust and full of information. Moving on to approval of consent agenda as recommended to council by committee, commission, board. The topics include the approval of the last common council minutes, the audit of the bills, the Pleasant View Golf Course improvements, addendum number 3 for additional construction phase services, and legal service retainer agreement with Murphy Desmond. Is there a motion?
This is Haniro. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Can I make a substitute motion? Did you want to change to the legal services retainer for the equal clause?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'll make actually, no one seconded my motion, so I'll make a different motion to approve items 1 through 3 of the consent agenda.
I will second that motion.
Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items number 1 through 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approval of consent agenda item number 4, legal services retainer agreement with Murphy Desmond SC.
I will move that we approve the legal services retainer agreement with Murphy Desmond SC to include the equal benefits clause.
This is Wilkus, I'll second.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the approval of the consent agenda item of legal services retainer agreement with Murphy Desmond, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the award of bid quote professional service, the award of bid to Iconica for the library restroom remodeling project 23-132. Is there a motion?
This is Crow. I'll make the motion to approve the award of the bid to Iconica for the library restroom.
This is Jackson. I'll second it.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of awarding of the bid to Iconica for the library restroom remodeling project, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to licenses. Beloved Proof LLC, the social at Middleton Market is requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating reserve liquor license located at 7622 Lisa Lane with Ashley Allen, 5815 Raymond Road, number 5, Madison, Wisconsin as agent. Is there a motion?
This is Wilkus. I move approval on behalf of license and ordinances.
And this is Cole. I'll second.
Okay, any comments or suggestions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the license for Beloved Proof LLC, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, ordinances first reading. An ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan of the city of Middleton, Wisconsin, Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2, including future land use map changes.
This is Haniro. I move approval, representing the Plan Commission.
Is there a second?
Point of information. To make changes to the proposed amendments as they stand, do we do them? How do we go about doing that?
It'd be similar to like a budget amendment. So you have, we have first, we don't have a second on that motion. So if there was a second for discussion purposes, then the body would have the whole ordinance and land use map in front of them, and they could offer subsequent motions to
To
modify
amend.
things in it.
Okay. I will move I will move the item forward for consideration. I will second the motion for consideration,
For discussion?
for discussion.
Okay. Would staff like to have some background, please?
Sure, I'm happy to do it. Hello, everyone. Abby Atune, Director of Planning and Community Development for the city. I'm pleased to present Amendment 2 to the Comprehensive Plan. This is the first full amendment to the Comprehensive Plan that was approved by the Common Council and completed in 2021. We did have one small amendment in 2022 that was just related to one property in the city. So this is the first full amendment. Planning staff has been working with the Plan Commission on this amendment for the last 6 months, beginning with their public meeting on May 9th. As background, the comprehensive plan is a 20-year vision to the future. The comprehensive plan is not a regulatory document, but state statutes do require that certain regulatory documents that are adopted by the Common Council are consistent with the comprehensive plan. So those are the city's official map, which was updated this year, the subdivision ordinance, which is anticipated to be updated in 2024, and the zoning, shoreland, and wetland zoning ordinances, which are well underway with a public hearing scheduled for next week for the zoning portion. The purpose of this amendment is due to 4 key factors. One of them are items that have been completed since the plan was approved in 2021. Another is for zoning ordinance consistency. As we've gotten further along with the zoning ordinance process, we've identified some areas that would not be consistent because we're very specific about what the zoning ordinance would include. So we're providing recommended updates to ensure consistency with the ordinance that is being circulated currently. The third item is additions, so things that we felt should have been included in the plan or that have come up through committees and commissions since the plan was originally approved. And then the fourth is corrections. I think really best practice is that the city council is making decisions that are consistent with the comprehensive plan, although it is not a regulatory document. So I applaud the Plan Commission and the council for continuing to review and update the comp plan, as well as all of the ordinances that help to implement the plan. The update to the city's comprehensive plan requires a public hearing with a 30-day notice. And I included in your packet a transmittal of all of the comments that we received in advance of the public hearing, which was part of the official record for the comp plan amendment. And those are included in the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting in your packet. This document was also circulated to 5 committees and commissions, and their feedback was also transmitted in the packet for this meeting. The Plan Commission voted 4-2 to recommend approval of the plan at their meeting on October 24th. And I am happy to answer any specific questions that you have about the plan or the process.
Alder Hanero.
Thank you, Abby, for summing that up. Members, I'd like to add some comments as your representative on the Plan Commission. You all received my, well, I hope you received and were able to read my memo addressing some of the comments that we've got. I'd note that I hear the word and during the airport commission, the master planning process, we heard the word misinformation a lot. I don't like that term because I think it implies intent. I looked up the American Psychological Association definition, and disinformation is the one that gets at intent. And I don't think we've heard any disinformation, but we certainly have what APA would call misinformation, and that is inaccurate statements or statements that are not based on the facts. In my memo, I noted that the process has not been rushed. We've been doing this for 6 months, and I know the staff to present the changes, recommended changes to us at our May 9th meeting. They must have been working on this for months before that. The comments we have heard both in writing and today indicates that the Plan Commission ignored the WRMC's quote, detailed thorough analysis, end quote, and their unanimous vote to quote, recommend that a proper evaluation take place prior to approving the zoning. First of all, we did not ignore their input. There was not a detailed, thorough analysis. There was a long discussion, but not a detailed, thorough analysis. And the unanimous vote was not to recommend that a proper evaluation take place before the zoning change. It was to recommend keeping impervious surfaces as small as possible and no greater than what's currently allowed in our code. Our code currently does not address impervious surfaces. It addresses lot coverage, which is 35% for this specific parcel, if we assume that the single family zoning was the correct zoning. But as we've heard, there was a mistake in the flu map. There were a couple of mistakes on the flu map. If you look at the 2021 version, you will see there is a parcel that's designated as Avenue Mixed Use on that map. That parcel is the Mary Jacobson Conservancy. No one in 2021 raised objections about the Conservancy potentially being redeveloped. That parcel, I think, obviously, the coding on that was supposed to apply to Allen Boulevard, as the staff have indicated. And I just find it really interesting that nobody objected to Mary Jacobson Conservancy being redeveloped, but now the soccer fields are the subject of a lot of concern. The 35% lot coverage, as we learned from our staff, and please remember that our staff are experts on things like stormwater management. The 35% lot coverage translates to about 50% impervious surfaces when you factor in streets and also sidewalks and driveways. So the staff have been trying to figure out and have advised the Plan Commission on how to use the information that came from the WRMC as we look at this particular site and how to categorize it, classify it in our flu map and eventually our zoning, and how to split up the property to try to get as close to that 50% impervious surfaces as possible. Chair Warren Giebert, who is one of the water experts on the WRMC, said this, quote, "Without seeing any specific plans for the proposed apartment, except what I read in the paper, it's difficult to review. They, of course, will have to meet our stormwater ordinance." He was not in favor of specifying a percentage. He said, quote, he wanted to, quote, "inform the Plan Commission of what the problems could be if we increase impervious area, because I don't know how we could make a decision on what the percentage should be." I would never accuse the other WRMC members of browbeating Chair Giebert into changing his view. He wanted to give the Plan Commission feedback, specifying that runoff and salt are issues. That is what he said. I also want to address the Sustainability Committee's input because I know from the chair that she does not want the committee to be a platform to denying multifamily housing at the soccer field site. On the LEED certification, compact and complete centers are encouraged. So our LEED certification will not either be in jeopardy, nor will we be untrue to that certification if we go forward with this change. Lastly, it has been said that 2159 Allen Boulevard serves as a collection basin to approximately 146 acres of land to the south, west, and north. This is not true. It is not a basin. It's actually higher than the land around it. As I noted in my memo, 2159 does not play a significant role in controlling stormwater runoff. This is from our own staff person, again, who is an expert on stormwater management. He said the site does not accept stormwater runoff from upstream areas. Under flood conditions, it might accept a tiny bit of runoff along its northern edge, but as a conveyance, meaning a roadside ditch, not in a storage detention capacity. There are a few hundred acres that drain through the general area beneath Middleton Beach Road via 3 storm sewers and into the lake. 2159 sits higher than Allen Boulevard, slightly higher than Marshall Park, and much higher than the Conservancy land to its north. When things get bad and the storm sewers are overloaded, the excess water will pond within several sags within Allen Boulevard until it eventually overtops in several locations and heads overland to the east. Adjacent to 2159, this overtopping could happen in 2 places: along the Mendota Avenue right-of-way and the very northern edge of 2159, the aforementioned roadside ditch, and through Marshall Park, either via a draw along the northern edge of Marshall Park or another draw lying about 175 feet further south. He did note there's significant storage volume within the Conservancy lands to the north of Mendota Avenue, and that filling those lands would have a significant impact. And he said there's a small, insignificant storage volume within a depression in the northeast corner of 2159. Although insignificant, any development of 2159 would still be required to consider the loss or partial loss of that small amount of storage within their stormwater calculations and modeling. Chair Giebert did present a table showing the impact of development or increasing impervious surfaces on evapotranspiration. He also acknowledged that evapotranspiration is not part of our stormwater ordinance. I was a member of WRMC last year, and at one of my first meetings, we talked about how evapotranspiration really should be incorporated into the stormwater ordinance, but it has not yet happened. But his calculations were in the absence of any kind of stormwater management plan. And any development that takes place on this site, unless it is 5 lots or fewer of single-family homes, any development would have to have a stormwater management plan that gets approved, reviewed by our staff, approved by the WRMC, approved by the Dane County Land Conservation Department, approved by DNR, and then ultimately approved by Plan Commission and the council. So this is why it's so important to understand that the process, the advocacy for changing the way we do, changing the order of the process, it doesn't make sense to me, because we do not analyze sites. The city does not pay for consultants to do these studies prior to zoning. We don't even pay for these studies after a development has been proposed, unless we are the ones doing the developing. The studies of groundwater, the studies of soils, that is a developer responsibility, and the city should not be on the hook to pay for these studies prior to development. The stormwater management and traffic impacts, those are things that the developer will have to pay for. The city will commission a traffic impact analysis, but the developer is on the hook for paying for that, as they should be. And neither of those two things, neither the stormwater management plan nor traffic, I mean, we know there will be impacts, but they are not disqualifying. A traffic impact analysis indicates what needs to be done to maintain acceptable service along that corridor. Stormwater management, if the developer comes back with a plan that meets the city's stormwater ordinance, that's what we want, right? We want them to control and manage their stormwater. If they can't meet that, they will be asked to implement measures such as a green roof or more native landscaping to increase the rate of evapotranspiration. So Chair Giebert's table was informative, but it was presenting the information in the absence of any kind of stormwater management plan, as he acknowledged at that meeting. Finally, the idea that this is an extremely sensitive piece of land, I just note that, and you can see this on the flu map, CARPC maintains a map of environmental corridors, and they define it as continuous systems of open space in urban and urbanizing areas. These corridors include environmentally sensitive lands, natural resources requiring protection from disturbance and development, and lands needed for open space and recreational use. And consistent with Eric Sorensen's response, the Lakeview Conservancy north of 2159 Allen and Marshall Park to the south are both shown on that environmental corridors map. 2159 Allen is not.
Please, comments from the public, keep those quiet. Alder Cole, yes, Alder, go ahead. Go.
And I currently serve on Water Resources. So I'll throw in my 2 cents. And I think Lisa summed up kind of what, there was a long discussion about this. And Lisa's description of that is pretty accurate. We did not have a specific plan in front of us, so we were a little bit at a loss as to how we could say this is good or this is bad. Water Resource Management understands that this is a sensitive area. Being close to the lake, there are concerns about it. But again, without any specific development, we couldn't come down with this is what needs to be done or this is what can't be done. The final vote was kind of a compromise as a way of saying we need to watch what we do here. Was kind of the general feeling of the committee, because it's a sensitive area. I've spent some time, not necessarily on the soccer field, but Lakeview Park, that area when my kids were little. I remember when we would walk into Lakeview Park in the spring and the ground was just soggy. That whole area has been like that. There's not a lot of place for water to run off to. So yeah, I understand the concerns. And for me personally, I have read a lot of the emails that have come in. I've listened tonight to all the comments. So I don't think the residents they're not being ignored necessarily. And I understand the frustration, but I also understand the process, and Alder Haniro, I think, mentioned this at the plan committee meeting about its process. This is a general idea of what should be done for this area. But again, it's going to come back to water resource management, traffic studies, once we have a definite plan as to what might go in there.
Alder Crow, I heard from a committee member on the water, the WARC, that salt was a big concern. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that came up in the discussion. And again, that's going to happen with any kind of development there. One of the concerns with the quality of the Lake Mendota, is salt running into the lake. So if there's any roads, driveways, parking lots, whatever goes in there, how are we going to manage the salt that might run off? How's that going to be done?
Thank you for sharing that. Is someone here on sustainability? Can I ask? Is that okay? That's yours.
We didn't talk about this.
Could we maybe in the future add that as an agenda item of salt in the city? Because I hear what Alder Crow is saying, that it's something that's concerning for the whole city. So let's look at that as a future agenda topic. I'm going to pick Alder Nelson and then Alder Schaefer.
My question is, does MBR have a neighborhood association?
Yes, they do.
Do you restrict salt?
May the president come to the front. The MBR president, Ginny. Generally, we don't call on a member of the public. However, as president,
Tony, would you do that on the salt? I mean, my understanding is, based on watching the Water Resource Management Committee, they talked about once salt gets into the lake, it never goes away.
Right, I'm asking you if you have a restriction for everyone who lives on MBR. Do you have salt restrictions on your properties?
It's no different than your properties. Our properties are zoned the same way.
You have a neighborhood association and you're the president of it. Do you tell your neighbors, let's not use salt?
I think for the most part, we avoid it totally.
But you don't have a
But we don't
restriction
have-
in the,
No, we don't have rules, so to speak.
you don't? Okay.
In our
That's my
association
question for you.
bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, but we are very environmentally conscious. Many people have the rain gardens.
We
and
all are, yeah.
We just avoid it because we know it can get in the lake.
Yeah, okay, thank you for answering my question.
yes, thank you for joining us and answering that. Alder Schaefer?
Yeah, I want to be careful that we don't get too bogged down in the minutia of this issue about the water runoff. I heard a lot of people talking about things such as light pollution, noise pollution, putting a 5-story building next to an R1 single-family house, quality of neighborhood. So I hear a lot of that. I don't want that to disappear as part of this discussion. I mean, we are sort of singling out one lot for one giant development that's basically in an R1, R2 type neighborhood. And I know I've been on the plan commission for several years, and it was always an issue about what's too big compared to who sits around it and the quality of the neighborhood. So I'm very sensitive. I think this is a problem, but I wanted to make sure that we keep focus on some of that stuff.
Thank you for that comment. Alder Wilkes?
If I may piggyback off of your comment, I think that's my biggest concern about when I look at the flu map and that pink in the surrounding yellow and green space. It seems incongruous with the neighbors around it. And I understand that it's on transportation corridor. I understand what we are seeking to do by building along those corridors and promoting multifamily and mixed use development along those corridors. I would propose that we downgrade it from an avenue mixed use to a neighborhood mixed use at this point in time. I am not in support of large buildings along the lakefront. I voted against the Middleton Shores height. The extra 2 stories that was permitted when we voted for it. I voted against that. I think there's something to be said about maintaining the aesthetic and the character of a neighborhood. And I don't think that an avenue mixed use fulfills that in this spot. Neighborhood mixed use, perhaps. I understand any development that goes in, there's going to be research. I've sat through many traffic impact analysis. We've heard about all the things that the developers have to provide to the city. We've read all those reports, and I understand that that falls on the developer. So a lot of the concerns about environmental impacts and all those things will come with time. But I just don't agree that an avenue mixed use is the right use of that property.
Alder Cole?
Yeah. So this property is directly across from where I live. I'm incredibly proximate to it. And so I have really been paying very close attention to this entire process. And I really have read every email and listening to everything and asking staff hard questions and being part of the public or listening into the public hearings and the information sessions, and just to really make sure that I can make the best decision that I think possible at this time. And I just want to say, like, I appreciate the conversation about this one parcel because we are really here to talk about the overall plan amendments. And so I just want to thank everyone who we've heard from, because I know that it is out of care for the neighborhood that they have within the wider Lakeview district. And I don't want to conflate what we're here to accomplish, because with the mention of the concept plan that was submitted this summer seeking a PDD under current zoning for the Allen Boulevard site that has since been withdrawn. But I think I would be remiss in not mentioning it because I had a great number of concerns about that development. At that early stage in the process, I was not in favor of granting a variance for that plan. However, that plan did not continue through our process. It didn't even start to address concerns or convince me and other neighbors about whether such a plan was feasible. And that is why we have our plan review process. The onus is on the developer to address the concerns of citizens committees, the plan commission, us. Right, we've all heard it already, and we've been spending months on this, that they do the necessary traffic, soil, land, stormwater studies and modify plans accordingly to demonstrate that what they propose to build meets our city requirements, guidelines, parameters, and the larger state regulations and requirements. So I mentioned all this. I did so much work on this to do my due diligence in understanding all that is involved to make this decision. And through that, I kept at the forefront the fact that the comp plan is a living vision setting document for the ways we need to be intentional and smart about future and growth as a city. And I believe that it is rooted in best practice and evidence about how to grow our city well and meet our community's needs. I appreciate that the proposed amendments are in keeping with that, and it does work to advance our vision. And that is why I did step up to serve, is because I believe in the city's vision and I want to be part of that vision going forward. And like I said, I live very proximate to 2159 Allen. So I spend every time I walk past it, deliberating and reflecting on my own feelings. I can see it as I exit my back door, exit my front door. I walk past it 2-3 times a day. And it's ever present in my daily life. And I'm not opposed to a mixed use building going there, because I, for one, and I've heard from neighbors within my condo community and renter community, and even other parts of the district, we'd love cafes or amenities right across the street. And I don't say that to diminish all of the concerns about it, but it comes down to, is that something needed, wanted, that we can live with? And I would welcome new neighbors and the many talents and attributes that they bring to their city. As I drive, around the corner down University Avenue, I see the new attractive apartments in both directions. I could envision a building like the Brennan just down University in Madison, or the Philbin at that site. I think that the delineations of the two zones of the parcel are wise and a good compromise that Plan Commission brought up in May, and has since moved forward in the amendment. I think that helps meet the future growth needs along the corridor, while scaling down to a level that matches the existing neighborhood to the eastern portion of the parcel. And I do think that makes a transition from the busy corridor to the quiet lake adjacent MBR. And just in addition to much of the rationale for the comp plan amendment and flu map change, especially the rationale shared and educated by staff and Plan Commission, these are all the reasons why I actually chose to move to my neighborhood nearly 7 years ago. So prior to that, I lived in very Western Dane County, and I drove every single day for 6 years from Western Dane County to the Capitol Square. And I was part of the problem of traffic and sprawl. And because Allen is a part of Middleton that is so well served by transit, city parks, conservancy land, the local amenities, short range drivability to like my groceries, my doctors, my vet, it is a very desirable location. And I just share this because when I was looking to be part of the solution by moving inward, housing options were very limited for me in this neighborhood, and they are very much so still. And so I do appreciate the city's vision to grow these options. And then just like in closing, I am compelled by the rationale of recommendations made by city staff and Plan Commission. I am compelled by the overwhelming need of housing in Middleton and the region, and especially that it is very, very well served by transit and location to other amenities, schools, jobs, green spaces. I could just see, teachers being able to walk to work at Sauk Trails. I am also compelled by the knowledge that other municipalities are looking to Middleton as a leader in smart growth with this comprehensive plan amendment and the flu map changes and the subsequent zoning rewrite. They are looking to us. And I am compelled by trust in the process that any future development will be scrutinized by staff, committees, by Plan Commission, and by us to ensure that it is a development we can support. So I am supportive of the changes before us today, and so I hope we can also look at other elements of the comprehensive plan amendment as well. And for example, I'm really pleased to see the comprehensive plan amendment includes revisiting the Allen Boulevard build, because I think it was a big oversight to not include the southern portion of the corridor in that review and discussion, because it abuts another main arterial corridor, which is University Avenue, and these are our transit routes and business routes and or business districts and our multifamily districts. Everything along Allen Boulevard is multifamily. So, but I think, I owe it to the district for me to share my rationale for this.
Thank you for that comments. Everybody's having thoughts and I really appreciate it. I want to say that because the public is here and you've all shared your thoughts, and I do appreciate everyone coming out tonight. And we do hear you. And that is something that has been talked about a few times, and we do hear you. Any other comments, Alder Nelson?
I just wanted to relay a story that I tell people in my district, in District 3, all the time. Before I was involved in being an alder, I didn't understand how decisions were made. And I actually came before a variance committee because my neighbor wanted to put a driveway too close to my property. And I was so upset and couldn't believe that these things were happening to me. Well, one of my favorite things I realized once I became involved in this is that everyone who works here, everybody on the city staff, we all care. Everyone here cares about the environment. We care about the lake. We care about this city not getting too crazy and built up. We have, I like to tell people, there's no deep state here. Nobody's in anybody's back pocket. We care about the growth and the future of this city. And so we have something, I'm going to probably mess up these numbers, 16,000 jobs here, and 10,000 people have to come in from outside of Middleton to go to work. And talk about the environment, that's a lot of pollution. If like Alder Cole said, if people could live near their job and walk or take public transit to their job, and if they live in one footprint instead of many, many, many single footprints, and by the way, we don't have any room for many, many, many single footprints. I know that we can stay creative and kind to one another and thoughtful about the environment. And I'm not trying to say that anyone out there is, because you're not involved, you don't understand, but it is a little bit more thought out than I ever knew. So please trust me when I say that there's like a hidden agenda anywhere. We just want the best for this city, and we work for all of the residents here. We don't just work for developers or, just one segment. we want everyone to be able to have a good future here. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that. I might have to reflect on that and share it myself. Any other comments? I've appreciated the committee sharings and people sharing their insights. Alder Lorman and then Alder Haniro, please.
No, you go first. Thanks. I'm just going to reflect what Alder Roca said. I see it more that area in line with that type of view. When I look at the map and see, what the potential future for just that whole corridor of the city is. I've lived in this area now since 2004. And when I look at the classification of the MUA established neighborhood, and there's MUA, I guess, mixed avenue use, in my interpretation and understanding of that, I think we're going to see more opportunity along that corridor for other growth and development, especially to the north. There's some older properties there, the little strip mall where the tavern is, the liquor store along there, the health club and all of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see opportunity of growth along there. So I'm trying to look ahead on the impact of all of this and how you envision residential kind of fitting in, as opposed to just having this monolithic building sit next to established neighborhood. So I get it. Thanks.
Alder Hanira.
Yes, thank you. I hear the comments from my colleagues in District 1 and District 2 about the neighborhood mixed use. I will say that we talked about this, and even Commissioner Bruce, who actually was the one who brought up the possibility of neighborhood mixed use, even he agreed that the 3 stories was insufficient because that is the maximum for neighborhood mixed use area. There are several houses on Middleton Beach Road that are already at 3 stories. And since this is further to the west, there is this buffer area between that neighborhood and what would be Avenue mixed use. It seemed like an additional 2 stories, which is what the max height is for Avenue mixed use, was appropriate. We talked also, following up on my colleague from District 7, his comments, we do anticipate, again, this is a 20-year vision. We do anticipate more development along both sides of Allen Boulevard. The multi and 2-family homes across the street from this property have indicated, at least some of them, an interest in redevelopment. And it's important to, be thinking 20 years ahead. I would note that Lake 61 is 4 stories. The Heritage Senior Apartments, they're 4 stories. Brian, could you pull up the flu map, please, the proposed one? And I would note that in my own district, the new Mill apartment building is going to be 4 stories with 3 stories along the Century Avenue. And if you zoom in on that, if you can find it, Brian, it's the pink splotch. Yep. That was approved by a prior plan commission that I was not on. And it generated a lot of concern from the neighborhood, and yet it's going in, and it will be an asset to the community because that one is going to provide affordable housing units. Is it out of character with the neighborhood? Perhaps, but the developer worked really hard to do what they could to make it more palatable for the neighbors both to the north and the south. to accept it. And then finally, on the neighborhood mixed use, Abby, if you're on, I wonder if you would explain what the staff shared with the Plan Commission about the possibility of impervious surfaces with neighborhood mixed use versus avenue mixed use.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So there's a couple things here. We're talking about the flu map in the comp plan, and avenue mixed use is the designation that the Plan Commission is proposing for the western part of the site, with established neighborhood on the eastern part of the site. But with the zoning that is forthcoming and that we have a public hearing scheduled for a week from today, we have translation tables. So every future land use map category has a translation, or a couple translations or several translations that would be appropriate from a zoning standpoint. So for avenue mixed use, there is only one zoning classification that is proposed to translate from avenue mixed use, and it is MUA, or mixed use avenue. And then the established neighborhood category that the Plan Commission is proposing as a buffer to the single family homes to the east, that is shown in yellow on the eastern part of the property. That one is a little bit more complicated because there are 6 different types of zoning classifications that could translate from established neighborhoods. So everything from low density single family housing to low density multifamily housing. In terms of the neighborhood mixed use future land use map classification, there are 2 zoning classifications that could come out of that. One of them is also MUA, or mixed use avenue. The other is MUN, or mixed use neighborhood. In terms of the differences between the two, MUA allows a 5-story mixed use building. It would also offer the option for a height bonus under certain categories, like if they were able to enter into a land use restriction agreement for affordable housing, or if they were able to meet net zero energy standards. There could be an additional story under those 2 height bonus categories. And it allows up to 80% impervious. The MUN category allows 3 stories by right. It also could offer a height bonus. It is really intended for smaller corridors. So Parmenter Street is a really good example of where we're showing MUN, because we have an established neighborhood along Parmenter Street between the roundabout and University Avenue, where we have a lot of really small lot sizes. And the comprehensive plan has a goal in there that we want to preserve the existing character of that area and create that as an extension of downtown Middleton. So that's really the primary area that we're proposing neighborhood mixed use in the flu map. Neighborhood mixed use allows 75% impervious. And I mentioned that it would allow 3 stories by right for a mixed use building, but it's also important to note that it allows every category of land use that is lower density, like single family housing, for example, that would also be allowed in the MUN category. And one of the things that we discussed with the Plan Commission, and that makes the Water Resources Committee's recommendations complicated, is that our current zoning, as we mentioned, does not have an impervious surface standard for single family residential, or R1, which is the current zoning of the soccer field site. That is what is entitled by right now is R1 zoning. So there is no maximum impervious surface standard. And the complicated part of this is that if a site develops for multifamily housing, it may not need things like an internal street network, an alley system. And those public components of a project can add a pretty substantial percentage of impervious surface to a development. So one of the things that we discussed at the Plan Commission meeting is that we understand that there are concerns about adding impervious surface to the lot, and we wanted to make sure that it was clear to decision makers that it is possible that MUN could result in a higher level of impervious surface than MUA, despite the fact that MUA is limited to 80% because that 80% is applied only to the private development component and not to any public infrastructure that would be needed to serve a subdivision, for example, where we would have streets and sidewalks and potentially alleys. So that I think that was the question that you were asking, Alder Hanairo. Was there anything else that you wanted to hear about?
No, that's a good explanation. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Yes, impervious surface, it's very important. Alder Cole?
Yeah, and to my colleague's point about changing to the Avenue neighborhood
mixed use.
Yes, Abby's points right here were what has changed my mind about thinking about that classification there and maintaining the Avenue mixed use because of the potential for a massive amount of public infrastructure that is not part of the measure of impervious surface and could result in more impervious surface on that piece of property.
As the R1 or?
No, as the, so switching from the proposed and Avenue mixed use to the Avenue neighborhood.
Understood.
So you're saying you want to stick with Avenue?
So yes, in considering what alternatives could be, I also had thoughts about the Avenue neighborhood, but to Abby's points, the Avenue mixed use does not have the sort of runaway impervious surface issue.
My response to that would be that it all would depend on what the developer was proposing, correct? So again, we're putting a cart before a horse here to say what anyone could come up with within that requirement. My biggest thing with the neighborhood mixed use is that it limits the height. It requires them to be considerate of the neighborhood that's established there, and it provides a little bit. I'm more comfortable with what the possibilities are of going in there and the range below it, as opposed to the Avenue mixed use.
Alder Schaefer?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, as it is right now, it's R1. So you already have no permeability requirements. So it can't be worse than it is at the moment, which is R1 or mixed neighborhoods not going to change it. It comes to what I heard a lot of you talking about. We have faith in our government, faith in the people who do the studies, faith we're going to make the good decisions. Then why are we jumping the gun and saying we need to protect ourselves somehow from a bad decision by, like, you know, with the impervious water? I don't think anybody around this room is going to sit there and let that happen with the developers come and say, I'm going to cover 85% of it. It's just not going to happen. I also agree with the neighborhood thing. If you look at this map, there's R1 to the left of it, R1 to the right of it, part to the north of it, part to the south of it. There's not a single development that's not R1 floating around that, and suddenly bang in the middle of the map is this big Avenue mixed cluster thing. It doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. I just can't support it as an Avenue mix. It just doesn't fit. Just doesn't fit.
I completely agree with you. When I look at this area of the neighborhood, it reminds me of Wingra Park and the possibilities that either they have a Wingra Park extension at Marshall Park now. The kids can go to camp there. There's the Michael's Custard that used to be down by Wingra. There's ability to provide the commercial use without going to a 7-story massive 500 unit. And granted, I know that's not in front of us anymore, but if we're opening it up to that, I think we may not all be on the council when that comes up. And we're putting faith in people to later put on just make the right decision. If we put the restriction in now, we're laying a groundwork for saying that that's
please
not
stop.
okay for the future.
Sorry, I wasn't talking to you. I was. For the public, please keep your public comments to yourself. This is not time for public comments. Alder Jackson. Thank you, Alder Wilkes. I appreciate your comments.
I'm about in favor with Schaefer and all the Wokers. All the Schaefer said something earlier. There's just a lot of questions. There's a lot of open questions, and we're making a decision with a lot of open questions, which I have some concern about. Another thing is I didn't hear anger, revenge, or anything at the podium tonight. I heard passion for people who spent 15, 20, 40 years investing in their community. And now I asked council, the mayor, anybody, where you live at, would you want somebody to just drop a building in your backyard on your doorstep and just say, hey, this is what we got to do, and especially when there's a lot of questions that's open. Another thing Alder Schaefer brought up is, we're talking about noise, we're talking about this. There's so many factors that we're not weighing in. I have a daughter who goes to Cromrie. Cromrie housed 2,700 students. Okay, we're putting up apartments, we're putting up these developments, but I believe in structure. What happens? Where's all these kids going? Who's policing all these places? These are things that we're not thinking about when we're just throw them in there. And when I look at my neighboring city, Madison, I have some concerns. Meadowlands Complex, which now they call M Block, which is named after a gang in Chicago. The neighbors over there, the residents are pulling their hair out who got houses over there because they just threw a building there, and now Madison's declared it a nuisance. Go down the block, Milwaukee, Grand Commons, who had apartments, had houses. They threw apartments over there just maybe 4 weeks ago. 15-year-old girl shot down in a massacre. People over there pulling their hairs out, talking about selling their houses. I mean, these are the things that I believe that we need to think about when we just bringing these developments in. I don't mind being transparent. Say I live in Avery at Middleton. When I moved in, Avery made a lot of promises. I've recently just relocated myself because Avery is not going in the direction that I thought it would go. Management, one of the things that we got to look at who manages these places. I pulled up with my daughter from school the other day, and I'm not the type of person that's going to live in a community where you're saying screw this and F that and do this, and the gangster's pulling up with his car. So we're not even screening who we're letting come in our communities. Many of you know that I support the Middleton Police Department. I supported the referendum to add Middleton Police. I spoke with Chief, and they're pulling their hairs out trying to secure us in our communities. So I think there's a lot of factors that we need to think about when we say, I'm not against growth, I'm pro-development, but I think that we're not asking the questions that need to be asked. When you putting this up, what does that look like? What is that going to do for us down the line? Because like I said, we have places that have done this. Like I said, the Meadowland Complex, the Harmony Apartments, right across the street, people live in houses and everything else. And I'm not sure when Madison put them apartments in, they didn't think it was going to go away. It did. I recently heard, and I'll close with this, even at the Harmony Apartments, the person who was managing it after the killing happened, she got fired because she was connected to a murder. I mean, these are people we got running these developments. Are we going to go out there and police these developments? Are we going to make sure that these developers are coming in and they're screening the managers and screening the people that come in these apartment developments? I say again, Avery is not turning out what I thought it would turn out to be. It's going in the wrong direction. And as a resident, I'm telling you, it's going in the wrong direction. These are the things that we need to think about.
Thank you, Alder Jackson. I appreciate that. Alder Nelson and then Alder Haniro.
Go first.
Well, I wanted to clarify, first of all, again, to reiterate, there is no proposal before us, and Alder Wilkes, you did acknowledge that it's no longer there. A 7-story building would not be allowed under the Avenue mixed use, so that isn't even a possibility if we go in the direction that I am advocating. And Alder Nelson, you talked about the process and, you know, how much you learned as a member of council. I too had no idea how involved everything is. So yes, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and they will all be answered according to the process that has existed long before any of us became council members.
I just want to echo Alder Hanairo's thoughts. These things are thought of. This is why we have such an amazing city staff. They do think of these things. We have to think about how many police per number of residents we have. This is not, let's just, an apartment doesn't equal crime. Just doesn't.
Can you say that
Equals
again?
Homes.
Can you say that again?
An
Apartments.
apartment does not equal crime. That's all I'm gonna say.
I am grateful for such a robust discussion, but I do want to make sure that council stays more on topic. We are looking at this district. We are looking at Amendment 2. And having been on prior to Alder Cole, I will tell you that the browns, the marked brown areas on the, and she referenced it, on the Allen to University corridor, and I may not have shared this with her, some of the property managers want to go to 4 stories. They actually no longer want to be brown. They want to be pink. And so it's not in this iteration. It will be in a future iteration because funding and future development, but it would be redeveloping apartments that are there. And perhaps that's why I'm sensitive about the apartments does not equal crime, because there are so many renters that were in the district that Alder Cole now leads and is in the district. So I want to be respectful to those who are in the city, all across the city. So thank you for listening to that. Alder Wilkes?
Are we at a point in the discussion that we can move forward
please.
with the motion?
Yes.
Another point of information, if we would like to make changes to the amendment as it is, as you said, it's like I apologize, I did write up the change that I would like to see, but I wasn't able to email it. I did it at a late hour. So I don't have that language in writing for you, but I can.
Yeah, so there's a main motion on the floor, which is the comprehensive plan amendment number 2, which is included in the packet. So any motion beyond that or to change that would be, you know, an amendment or a substitute motion.
Okay, I would like to make a substitute motion or an amendment. This is tricky because it's a substitute motion, but it's amendment 2. And this is not related to what's been discussed, but it is in the intent of the revisions to the comprehensive plan in what Abby had mentioned at the beginning, which was to bring the future land use map in to be consistent with the zoning ordinance changes and the proposed zoning map, which was public noticed on October 13th. So I would like to propose a change to the future land use map. And it would, my language would be, I was looking at the spreadsheet. So is on page 23, the change description would read, revised future land use map for the Stonefield Glen, Stonefield Professional Center, and Stonefield Suite sites, which in the draft future land use map are avenue mixed use. They should be changed to neighborhood mixed use. There are 4 plots there that comprise those 3 sites. And that the justification for it is it to bring it in line with the proposed zoning map that was public noticed on October 13th.
Can we show it on the screen, please?
23, I think she said.
23.
Page 23 of the comprehensive is where the map is.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Alder Hanairo.
I don't know who I'm asking it of, but I know the Plan Commission, Commissioner Bruce recommended that change, not at the last meeting, but at the one prior to it, and it did not It was approved, but I guess it's not showing.
Yeah, and I checked with staff on that and they said that it might have been an omission.
Okay.
But that was something that could be addressed.
Thank you for that reminder and thank you for sharing that. All right.
Is there a second?
Thank you. Is there a
I
second?
will, the changes just with regard to the Stonefield. Okay.
Currently, yes.
I will second that and that is what Plan Commission had already agreed to.
Sorry, can you repeat the changes just to?
Can we zoom in, Brian? It's, you know where the nitty gritty is?
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay,
Commissioner,
got it.
for background, Commissioner Bruce had asked for this a couple of meetings ago and noted that unlike Allen Boulevard, there is not transit along Gammon Road or Park. And so he having a hard time seeing it here.
They're 99.
Yeah, it's right above.
There it is, right by 99. Yeah, so those parcels would change to neighborhood, were changed, but not on the map, were changed to neighborhood mixed use because they are not on a transit line and that would be more in keeping.
Understood. All right, so, yes.
If I may, if I may make a respectful correction, it actually is on a transit line. It's just not on a very robust transit line. It's actually Route R. But the other issue is that the lot sizes are really small. And that's one of the things that Abby mentioned earlier is we looked at mixed use, neighborhood mixed use when lot sizes are smaller. And so that's part of the consideration is some of the lots there, at least one or two of them are smaller. Just for clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, so
do we need to vote on that motion then? That was first and second. Is that right?
Can you help me? What was the?
Okay, do you want me to read it again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it would be a change to the future land use map to the Stonefield Glen, Stonefield Professional Center and Stonefield Suite. They're 4 plots in that quadrant of the city. And they would be changed to neighborhood mixed use. And that is to bring it in line with the proposed zoning map.
And we're only voting on those 4, accurate?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Everyone
my
understanding? All right.
Mhm.
All those in favor of
Wait,
her amendment?
wait, I have a question.
Mhm.
So we are only voting on this specific change to the map. We are not voting on the entire comp plan with that change.
No,
Got it.
we're just making that change to the map.
Okay.
All those in favor of Alder Wilkes's district changes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now reverting to the original motion, can you read the motion?
So the original motion would be the ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan amendment number 2, including future land use map changes with the addition of the map change to the Stoneville Glen area that was just adopted. So that is now the item that's on the table.
And this is a first reading.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we want to make any other changes, can we make another substitute motion? Okay. I would like to make a substitute motion as well. Does that have to include the current motion that I just did? I'm sorry, I'm new to this. You gotta walk me through.
Why don't you just give us your motion and I'll guide you the right direction.
Okay. To change to revise the future land use map for the portion at 21 for the parcel at 2159 Allen Boulevard to neighborhood mixed use.
So that would be an amendment then. Yep. Amendment.
So a second amendment.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and that was to neighborhood.
Change to revise the future land map, future land use map for the parcel at 2159. Correct me, that's the correct 2159 Allen Boulevard to a neighborhood mixed use.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments?
Well, yeah, I also have some comments regarding the map that has nothing to do with these 2 elements.
What, clarifying, Brian, can he
So it would be
speak on that?
maybe another amendment.
Yes, let's address the amendment that's on the floor right now. So any comments germane to this particular proposal?
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. So any comments to that version, and that is the one that maxes at 3 stories. Is that accurate? All right.
It doesn't, 3 stories by right.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure because right now we're getting used to a lot of terminology and I want to make sure that the whole council feels comfortable. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
One second. Shaver,
Yes on the amendment.
Wilkus,
Yes.
Cole,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Haniro,
No.
Norman,
Yes.
Crow.
No.
Or 4, it's up to the mayor.
It's 5. I think that was 5-3.
No, it's 4-4, which means you,
Nelson Schaefer was 1.
well,
Wilkus was
let's get the
1.
official count.
Okay,
I have a 4-4 tie.
my apologies.
Sorry?
My apologies.
Okay, but
I
now
have,
you
I have a 4-4 tie with Schaefer, Wilkus, Nelson, and Lorman voting aye, and Cole, Jackson, Haniro, and Crow voting no.
Oh, I had an extra one. My apologies. Okay.
It's your vote. You
Um,
break ties,
Okay, so I'm going to say no.
okay? It's not over yet.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
that motion with the mayor's vote fails 4-5. So back to the original motion as amended.
Did you want an amendment?
Okay, can we go
Oh,
back
yes,
to the
yes.
original motion? Oh, I'm
Alder-
sorry.
Alder Lorman had his.
Alder Lorman?
Thank you. Looking at the map, the future land use map, right now the airport is PDDS, and there was discussion to change it to air. But based on input from the townships, the Plan Commission wants to leave it as the PDDS. And my only comment was, and was hoping, maybe to get some airport commission input on this, but it's an airport. And if it's an airport and we're looking way ahead to the future, then that property should simply be an airport. And the township listed several objections as to why they don't want it zoned as an airport. And understand this, it's really death by 1,000 cuts. They don't want an airport there. Let's call it what it is, But if we are gonna, for rezoning and we're gonna do things right, it should be zoned as an airport, and the language and the ordinances that go with it should simply support it as an airport. That's it. And so I think whatever language we write into that zoning ordinance just needs to reflect that. And also at the last meeting, there was some added notes about kind of breaking up floor space of a hangar for use 50%, not to a hangar shouldn't exceed non-aviation use of 50%. So if someone wanted to put a restaurant or something in a hangar. But what I looked at in the BOA and FAA and their guidelines for, how you utilize airport space, they're pretty straightforward. Whatever you do on the property is generally to support the mission of aviation, and that's that. So
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Currently, that would be prohibited by every single hangar land lease that the city has with hangar owners.
Right.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
So I was just concerned about putting numbers into the language of the ordinance and just make sure there's more language than numbers in there. And so I'm saying that, you know, the language just needs to reflect the proper use of that property. And putting a number in there, I think, can be a little dangerous, because a hangar can be used for building airplanes as a business. You know, a business would set up there and they actually build an airplane in a hangar. And so, you know, is it, and to build an airplane in a hangar, you need to do a lot of things that are not related to flying the airplane. So it's fabrication, it's painting, it's construction, it's a lot of things. And, you know, so you're not even storing an airplane there, you're just building one, for example. So I just think, and this kind of harkens back to more than a year ago, Alder Haniro said, you know, an airport commission, something like that, should maybe even have people on it with expert knowledge. And so I'm not diminishing the knowledge of our city and my representatives here. But I think when we talk about the environment of the airport, it's different than everything else that we're dealing with. You know, you don't live at an airport, you don't live in an airport, you don't live in a hangar. You know, it's just, so that's my point. So I would just encourage that to be considered as an amendment, that we make it air, and that we draft language and that is really compatible with that.
Alder Haniro.
I have a question and a clarification / suggestion. The question is, which ordinance are you referring to that has numbers in it?
It would be drafted 10.02.53.
In the zoning code.
Yeah.
Okay. Then my clarification / suggestion is what we're voting on tonight is the comprehensive plan, which does include the designation of air, because again, and I know this is confusing, it still confuses me, but the classifications in the flu map are not the same as the zoning designation. The Plan Commission has a public hearing next Tuesday in this very room on the zoning code changes. And if you're amenable, I would take your comment if you're unable to attend, and relay that during the public hearing, so that your comments can be incorporated into our discussion of the changes to the zoning ordinance itself.
Sure, and I'll work with Mark Opitz to iron that out.
Thanks.
But I'm not claiming to, you know, be the expert here on how it needs to be worded, but I just want to make, you know, looking 20 years ahead, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so getting back to the original amendment, is that where we are, Brian?
Back to the main motion.
Yes,
Main
it'd be the
motion.
main
My
motion
apologies.
as,
I'm
yes,
very
it'd be the main
tired,
motion.
it turns out.
And that clock
Almost
is
10
messing
o'clock.
up.
Oh my gosh.
The clock
be-
says 11, so we'll have to fix that. I keep thinking maybe it is 11. We should get moving on things. Feels like it. Okay, Brian, can you help me?
Yes, thank you. It'd be the main motion as amended with the stone field change that was adopted previously. So by that, I mean the motion as it exists, or the comprehensive plan as it exists in your packet, with the items that were discussed this evening, and the amendment that was approved from Alder Wilkes.
Okay, and we had the original motion was, we had a first and a second. So
I
went to language.
moved, Alder Wilkes seconded, and I'll repeat it. Move approval of an ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan of the city of Middleton, Wisconsin, comprehensive plan amendment number 2, including future land use map changes, amended to reflect the change of the Stonefield parcels to neighborhood mixed use.
And just point of information, this as this is on the floor, as it was, because the previous motion to revise the 2159 Allen Boulevard failed, that what that means is that what is on the table is the Allen Boulevard mixed use category, part of this map that you're voting.
Can you please take a seat or step back? All right, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. 7-1 is my best understanding. All right. I have some help. Our next topic is
Planning and
Planning and
zoning.
zoning.
planning and zoning. Thank you. SIP for Middleton Valley Apartments at Red Tail Ridge.
This is in my district, Madam Chair, and I'm also the rep on the Plan Commission. So I move approval of the specific implementation plan for the Middleton Valley Apartments at Red Tail Ridge.
This is Focus, I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? Mark?
Staff is recommending an amendment to number 5, I think it is, on page, I forgot the page I told you.
253.
Yeah. And I thought I had brought it in with me, but it's in my office. and I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Actually, Abby might have it on the screen.
I don't know if I don't see her.
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
I move that we take a 5-minute recess to get the information from Mark and other things.
Or not.
Never mind.
What happened?
Nothing. You were too fast.
You're too fast.
Oh, so the language would be at the request of the developer to add, so long as the change does not make the use non-conforming. So that would be added to the condition of approval related to assigning the MRH zoning classification. And staff is supportive.
All right, I'll make a substitute motion to my motion to approve the specific implementation plan for Middleton Valley Apartments at Red Tail Ridge with the contingencies showing on page 253 and the additional wording regarding non-repeat that Mark Opitz just relayed.
Adding the phrase, so long as the change does not make the use non-conforming, meaning the apartment buildings.
Thank you.
Yep.
I will second the
Great.
substitute motion.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Moving on to the SIP Community of Bishops Bay Phase 7 preliminary plat, final plat. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm not a member of the Joint Zoning Commission, but I am on the Plan Commission. So I move to postpone consideration of this item until our November 21st council meeting.
This is Focus, I'll second.
Any comments or suggestions?
November 21st meeting. And just to clarify, just to explain, this will give staff a chance to review the documents received on October 17th. They need 4 weeks to review them, so November 21st is appropriate.
Yes, if I can, I think this is the one working with the town of Westport. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so as long as there's some communication with them as well. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the review, consideration, and recommendation for approval to the council of a retention incentive for the Middleton Police Department.
This is Focus. Oh, this is not up for vote. This is just a recommendation.
No, this would be the proposal.
For
up for-
approving it? Okay,
Yeah, we recommend approval.
So I will move approval of the retention incentive for Middleton Police Department on behalf of finance.
Or a second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Resolutions 2023-51, payment of assessments for Pheasant Branch Road Sidewalk Addition. Is there a motion?
This is Lorman. I'd like to make a motion that we go with this recommendation and go for the longer payment plan.
Is there a second?
Schaefer, second.
Any comments?
I just have a question on that one. By extending the payment plan, it will not affect our budget, correct?
Good question. I am unclear.
Well, every time you have special assessments, the city builds the project and completes it and relies on its legal authority to collect special assessments in the future. So the only difference here is if the schedule would be 3 years, it becomes 7 years by approving this resolution. But so it slows down the repayment to the city. But of course, since we have the right to take away property if people don't pay, through because it's collected with the property taxes. I've never seen anything like this have any negative effect on the city's credit worthiness. In fact, the city does have standard repayment schedules for special assessments typically. But, if the city said, if the circumstances were such that there should be a 20-year repayment because the assessments are so large, it's within the common council's right to agree to that. So, but it's such a small blip relative to overall indebtedness of the city. It has no real impact.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Excellent question. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Resolution 2023-52, removing Associated Trust Company, National Association, and appointing U.S. Bank Trust Company, National Association to serve as fiscal agent in connection with outstanding obligations. Is there a motion?
Yes, this is Hanairo on behalf of the Finance Committee. I move approval of Resolution 2023-52, subject to city attorney review and approval.
Is there a second?
This is Wilkes, I'll second.
Any comments?
I have a question.
Yeah. Again.
Sorry. And I should have
No,
been paying
that's
attention
all
during
right.
finance, but I was reading something else. Are there any fees associated with making this change?
Excellent question.
There's a savings.
I understand that, but sometimes there's startup fees.
Bill would know.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is not an initial startup fee for US Bank to go to this. There are the legal costs for our bond counsel at Quarles and Brady to prepare the documents, but that's been factored into the analysis of the savings. So the overall savings net of those fees to Quarles and Brady is estimated at $4,500 for our existing issues. We will also be able to save on each subsequent issue going forward.
Thank you.
There you go. Excellent question. Glad we are all knowledgeable. All right. All those in favor of passing Resolution 2023-52, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Lastly, any updates on city committees, boards, and commission from alderpersons and mayor? And I am just going to add, I went to Stars Hollows Day last week, so CTA, excellent work. I enjoyed that outing. I don't think I have any other updates.
Anybody else? I just wanted to say, if you know any artists, we are accepting applications for the Middleton Art Walk, which will be in mid-May, and I can tell you the exact date. May 18th. But we want artists to apply early so we can get pictures of their pieces on posters and advertisements. That's it.
Do we have a link for them to apply, or maybe we
Yeah,
could get that
under
out?
on the city website in the Arts Committee, you can find a form for an application if you're an artist or you know someone who is.
We'll have to do a blast.
Social media blast.
Social media blast. We're going to be
Where's
on top
Brent
of it.
when you need him?
Yeah, we'll be doing it. Anybody else? If nothing else, then I'm going to adjourn. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.